This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you as I love to do every weekday over the national airwaves of ESPN Radio and ESPN News, 250 plus markets across the United States of America. Check your AM/FM listing nearest you, plus ESPN Radio on Sirius XM Channel 80, plus ESPN Radio, simulcast over the live national television airwaves of ESPN News. Number to call up as always is 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. The Stephen A. Smith Show is being brought to you by LinkedIn. Build your winning team today. Go to linkedin.com/sports. Time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Got a lot of stuff to get into. The national championship, a new national champion has been crowned. They are the LSU Tigers, courtesy of the sensational Joe Burrow. I stand corrected. I didn't know this brother was on this level. And you could call me a fool because what the hell was I thinking? What the hell was I thinking? I mean, you talk about a kid that showed out, that showed up and showed out the way that he did last night against the champions at the time, the Clemson Tigers. You just can't say enough. We made so much noise about Trevor Lawrence. Had Leonard Fournette, former LSU Tiger, now a member of the Jacksonville Jaguars, come on First Take yesterday live from New Orleans and told me they call Trevor Lawrence Sunshine. They call him Sunshine. And sure enough, if he was sunshine, then Joe Burrow was damn sure to rain, because he brought the rain down upon Trevor Lawrence and the Clemson Tigers, 31 of 49, 463 yards, 5 touchdowns, was absolutely nothing short of sensational. That is something that we will continue to talk about as the show progresses today in terms of how good this kid Joe Burrow truly is, the reigning Heisman Trophy winner. This is a guy that left Ohio State, comes to LSU, and inside of 2 years wins a national championship, wins the Heisman Trophy, and is probably, in all likelihood, going to be the number 1 overall pick in the upcoming NFL draft. We give him nothing but our prayers, because the likelihood is that he'll get nabbed by the Cincinnati Bengals, and you know how sad that is. But we'll continue to talk about that as the show progresses, and we'll get into a bevy of other things as well. But before we do any of that, here's what I want to say to all of y'all. I want to remind y'all of how I started off this show yesterday. This is my last week doing the Stephen A. Smith Show. Obviously, I'll still have a presence on ESPN Radio. First Take will definitely have a strong presence in the 1 to 3 p.m. hour Eastern Standard Time. But in terms of me hosting this show on a daily basis, this Friday will be my last day, at least for the foreseeable future. You know, I come back and forth with radio because of all the television duties and obligations that I have. I'm going to be doing First Take continuously. Obviously, I'll be doing my own NBA show on Wednesdays from 7 to 7:30. Anytime there's a 7:30 p.m. game on ESPN, I'll be the lead in the Sports Center with Stephen A. Smith on Wednesdays from 7 to 7:30 Eastern Time, whenever those 7:30 games are scheduled. And, of course, I'll be doing some stuff behind the scenes, helping to develop content for the ESPN Plus, Disney Plus, and beyond. So I've got some new things. I'm excited about my future, but obviously I want to come here as the last week to spend time with my listeners and just to say thank you for your support and the love that you continuously show me. I wouldn't be where I am today if it were not for you. So I know this, and I'm incredibly thankful and gracious to you, or grateful rather, to you for all the support that you've given me throughout the years. But I'm here until Friday on the airwaves. So I just want to let you know that 1 to 3, I'll be here until this Friday. Getting back to these sports items that we needed to discuss. Joe Burrow is one thing. I mean, when you look at what happened, A.J. Terrell, a cornerback for Clemson, my condolences to him. My Lord, Jamar Chase just ate him up. 9 receptions, 221 yards. Jamar Chase was absolutely sensational last night. 2 touchdowns as well. Obviously, Jefferson had 9 receptions for 106 yards. Can't forget him. Randy Moss's son, Thaddeus Moss, ended up with 5 receptions for 36 yards. He had 2 touchdown catches as well. He played a role. Of course, Carl Edwards-Helaire 16 carries, 115 yards. So you got to give him credit where credit is due. He showed up. He showed out as well. Got to give him a lot of love. Etienne is the best player for Clemson as far as I'm concerned. They should have given him the ball more. That was a mistake, especially in the second half when you scored in your first drive and you pulled it within 28-25 after trailing 28-17 at the half. You were running the football effectively, Dabo Swinney. Why stop? Why stop? Keep feeding the beast. Keep feeding Etienne. He averaged 8 yards a carry during the regular season. He was averaging better than 5 yards a carry in this game. Keep giving him the football. Keep giving it to him. But that's not what happened. And as a result, LSU was able to pull away because Clemson started the second half relatively respectable enough. About the first 3 drives for LSU, they had to punt. So when you look at it from that perspective, I mean, hey, you got to do what you got to do. But here's what this all comes down to. The SEC, in particular the SEC, or specifically rather the SEC West, is a monster. With Alabama and LSU, you know what time it is. And Auburn to a lesser degree. Here's the reality of the situation. LSU, if Clemson had won this national championship game, they would have won 3 of the last 4 national championships. As far as I'm concerned, that would have cemented them as the best program in college football, ahead of Alabama. But LSU handled their business. And because LSU turned around and handled their business last night, now it's all up for grabs. We got to pay attention to what Kirby Smart is doing down in Georgia. We got to pay attention to what's happening at Auburn. We can never dismiss Nick Saban in Alabama. And now you got Ed Orgeron and LSU having captured their first national championship since 2007. You've got them in the mix. And the manner in which they beat Clemson, and considering Clemson beat Ohio State, we now go back to the regular old, which is stating that the SEC conference is the best conference in all of football, and we don't even know if there's a close second. That's where we are now. That's where we are. And so if you're thinking about it from that perspective, now we also got to rethink about the college football playoffs. Because chances are, would Alabama have lost to the degree that Clemson lost last night? Probably not. Well, you can't say that definitively because Clemson did blow them out last year. But when we look at Clemson and the way they looked last night, as competitive as they were, all right, they're coming from the ACC conference. What are we going to do to improve their strength of schedule? These are all legitimate questions. These are all legitimate things to engage in dialogue about. Are we going to complain in the future if there's more than one SEC team in the playoffs? Because this year you only had one. You had LSU, you had Ohio State, you had Clemson, you had Oklahoma. SEC, Big 10, Big 12, ACC. Considering what you saw from LSU, what are you going to say in the future if the college, the College Bowl committee decides we want more than one SEC team in the playoff picture because we believe usually 2 of the better teams, 2 of the top 4 teams in the country come from the SEC conference? Just throwing it out there. It's something that needs to be thrown out there. Skolsky. They got to do something, John, about that targeting rule, by the way. He didn't hit him in the head. It wasn't a helmet hit, but he used the crown of his helmet. Ladies and gentlemen, I understand the 15-yard penalty. I get that if something like that happened. That doesn't bother me. I have no issue with the penalty, with a penalty being implemented. An automatic ejection, John? An automatic ejection? The national championship game. This guy is a starting linebacker. He's a hit man. He nearly knocked Joe Burrow out of the game in the first half with a hit to the ribs. And in the midst of going in for a tackle, instinctually, he used his head, the crown of his helmet, didn't hit the guy in the head, but because he hit him in the chest area with the crown of his helmet, what is that called, John? Spearing? and you throw him out the game. Targeting. You throw him out of the game. Not a penalty. You're out. Ejected from the game. That's a damn shame. It really is. Now, if it was using the crown of your helmet and hitting somebody in the head, I get that. But that, damn, that was a tough one. 888-SAY-ESPN is the number to call. Just 888-729-3776. Speaking of a hit like that, on a side note, John, as I'm looking at you here, that's what Vontaze Burfict did when he hit Antonio Brown. Years ago in that playoff game that Pittsburgh ultimately beat Cincinnati in. There are those that have looked at what has transpired with Antonio Brown and wondering whether or not he's suffering from CTE. If indeed CTE is what is plaguing Antonio Brown, I think we can all defer to that particular hit from Vontaze Burfict. And we can honestly sit up there and say, you know something? That might have been it right there. Because clearly Antonio Brown doesn't seem like everything is connected right now. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a video circulating all over social media, courtesy of the former Steeler wide receiver, the former Oakland Raider wide receiver, the former New England Patriot wide receiver. It is of Antonio Brown cussing out police officers and the mother of his child purportedly while his children are around. And the woman along with the kids are all going into the police car. The police they're not arresting anybody. They're literally taking them away to safety because Antonio Brown is going off. Antonio Brown, I don't know whether it's a camera phone or a camera or what, I don't know what it is, but he's literally calling the cops the B words, B ass N words, all of that. Ladies and gentlemen, the police, in my opinion, showed incredible restraint. You can't talk to police officers like that and not get arrested. They would have been perfectly within their jurisdiction to arrest Antonio Brown. From my understanding, they could have arrested him. But not one, not two, not three, not four, at least 5 police officers are seen in the video, every one of them turning their back, walking away, and ignoring his incendiary diatribe towards them. Every one of them. And he's just going off. Kids right there. Kids are right there. I have no opinion about Antonio Brown on this because I think this is serious. I think the time has come for all of us to recognize something's wrong. I don't know what it is. I'm not a doctor, not a psychologist. I don't know. I have no clue. We can pray for him and wish him the best. I've had people that have told me they were around Junior Seau, Dave Durson, and others. They've seen this before. That's what they said. I don't know whether that's true or not. They said that the actions look eerily similar. The difference is those were 2 people, John, JC. Those are 2 people that harmed themselves. We don't know what Antonio Brown will do. We really don't know. And understand, this is not a news report and we're reading off the wire. This is not an interpretation from police officer or law enforcement officials. This is video that Antonio Brown himself is shooting and disseminating over social media. He's doing this, wanting everybody to see this and look. He saw us talking about it today on ESPN and told ESPN to do something I can't repeat over the airwaves. Told us to eat something. I have no comment about any of that stuff. This is not fun and games. This is real serious stuff. And I think the time has arrived for all of us to acknowledge that there's a reason to be concerned about Antonio Brown. He's a human being. And in the end, when you appear to be that troubled, all we can do is pray for you, wishing you nothing but the best, and hoping that whatever's wrong will be resolved. Other than that, I have absolutely nothing to say. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. The other big story that's inescapable is the situation going on with the Houston Astros. For those of you who did not know, Major League Baseball came down with a penalty against the Houston Rockets, suspending general manager for the Houston Astros, Jeff Luhnow, Luhnow, Luhnow. They suspended both Astros general manager Jeff Luhnow and manager A.J. Hinch for 1 year in the aftermath of an investigation that revealed the Astros had used technology to cheat during their championship season in 2017. 1 hour later, after Major League Baseball came down with these suspensions, both of them were fired by the Astros owner, Jim Crane. Now, yesterday on these airwaves, I said, what's the big deal? Baseball's always been cheating. There's nothing new here. Baseball stealing signs, part-time on bats, messing with the baseballs. The list goes on and on. Steroids, what the hell else is new? It's baseball. 50 games. That's what I thought. But those details didn't come out. First of all, I said that before the Astros owner had fired both individuals. Remember, that organization was also fined $5 million and stripped of its 2 seasons worth of first and second round draft picks in 2020 and 2021. So that's 4 draft picks, 2 first rounders, 2 second rounders. But ladies and gentlemen, it gets far more serious. Understand. Listen, we were not fully informed yesterday when I took the position that I took. I'm informed now. Let's understand what happened. Let's understand what transpired. Yesterday, we learned the Houston Astros actually used technology and had technological instruments installed in order to pick up signs of the opposing teams from some center field, using some center field footage. They installed a video screen near their dugout. Batters would come up to bat and pounding on trash cans would give a particular signal as to what pitch was coming or things like that. This was premeditated. It was premeditated. Now, I've joked in the past about Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots. Where's the proof? Oh, no, this is not that kind of situation. There is proof when it comes to the Houston Astros. Not to say there wasn't with Spygate. And as a result of the Major League Baseball's actions, along with that of the Houston Astros owner, not only does the NFL have to look in the mirror at itself, but Mr. Kraft, who I revere, has to look at himself as well when it comes to Bill Belichick, based on past transgressions that have been found about the New England Patriots. Because that's what this happened. That's what happened here. That's what they're saying happened here. You're the New York Yankees. You got to be sick to your stomach. You're the Los Angeles Dodgers. Just go to the Los Angeles Times and read Bill Plaschke's column today. There's some bad stuff. And we'll talk to our MLB insider, Jeff Passan, in just a few minutes. But here's the bottom line. Bill Plaschke believes that the Astros should be stripped of their World Series championship trophy. And I completely agree with him. This wasn't just about higher-ups. This is on down to the players. If you're a player, that means you knew what you were being signaled about when they pounded on the trash cans. You were complicit in this. You're guilty of this. Alex Cora was the bench coach of the Houston Astros when this was going on. You damn right he's involved. And then lo and behold, he gets the managerial position with the Boston Red Sox. And the very next year, they win the World Series title. Oh, there was an investigation involving the Boston Red Sox as well. I mean, this is serious. So I'll let Jeff Passan enlighten us all about the particulars, and I'll also take it a step further and ask him what should be done. But let me let you know where I stand. A.J. Hinch should have been fired. Jeff Luhnow should have been fired. Alex Cora, if he is found to have any guilt in this, he should be fired. Carlos Beltran was on that team. He's the manager of the Mets now. What was his role? What did he know? We need to find out. And oh, by the way, if we don't find out anything about him, the New York Mets need to immediately institute a zero-tolerance policy. We find out, man, you pass gas in the wrong way. Your ass is gone. Simple as plain. Now, you can't give the trophy to the Los Angeles Dodgers, but you could damn sure take it from the Astros. You can't get back the parade. You ain't going to get back the money. But you can take away that damn trophy. And you can scratch their existence as a World Series champion from the books. And oh, by the way, if you're a New York Yankee, how sick are you? You lost to the Astros in 2017 in Game 7 of the ALCS. You lost to the Boston Red Sox. How do we know you weren't robbed both times? The Yankees and the Dodgers are the two teams that lost to both teams that may have, at least one definitively, and the Boston Red Sox may have been cheating. This is serious. And I didn't know all of this yesterday, but I know it now, damn it. Luhnow should have been fired. I don't want to hear his explanation. It was garbage. I'll read it to you later. And A.J. Hinch should have been fired as well. Alex Cora's got to be in a world of trouble. Because, damn it, he was a part of it, too. He's the bench coach. And, John, you know my saying. If it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it ain't a damn mongoose. Y'all heard me loud and clear. This is no joke. This serious stuff here. Let's stop acting like we don't know. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Please go to the LA Times and read Bill Plaschke's column today. Talk to you about Clayton Kershaw and Brandon Morrow and Yu Darvish and how exceptional they were looking until a couple of games took place in Houston and they ended up giving up 18 runs, 26 hits, and 16 home runs. Suddenly they couldn't buy out. I wonder why. I wonder why. Time for some straight talk. The big wireless carriers try to wow you with big deals, but the savings are very little. With Straight Talk Wireless, you get the exact same networks as the big guys, but saving up to half the cost. Right now, you can get the unlimited plan with up to 25 gigs of high-speed data, then 2G for just $45 a month. No contract, no mystery fees, all with nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. Straight Talk Wireless, only at Walmart.
This human resources professional is a rock star thanks to Kronos. And this is her hype song.
I'm the spark before the fire. I'm the power in the train. I
have HR, payroll, talent, and time.
I'm the dream and you should know that.
Now we're engaging all the best people.
Kronos, HR solutions for the modern workforce and the people who support them. Learn more at kronos.com/HR swagger.
There's crispy. And then there's crispy-er. Try our new and improved Tyson Crispy Chicken Strips. Crispy just got crispy-er.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance, protecting your business with specialized coverages for your commercial vehicles. More at progressivecommercial.com. An honor and a privilege to have my next guest on the line, Major League Baseball insider extraordinaire. The one and only Jeff Passan is on the line with us right now for the family. What's going on, Jeff? How are you, man? Happy New Year.
Stephen A., it has been a long time, and in that time, my 12-year-old son has developed a great affinity for your sports takes, and he comes home all the time and tells me, Dad, why can't you be more like Stephen A.?
Tell him.
So now when he gets home from school today, I'm going to tell him, Jack, I tried to be more like Stephen A., and he invited me on his radio show today. So what does that say about your dear father?
Yeah, you tell him I said his dear father is far more valuable than I can ever hope to be. Thank you so much, though, for the kind words. Let me get right to this, Jeff. First of all, let me ask you this question. How long have you been covering Major League Baseball?
This will be my 16th or 17th year coming up.
So as a person that has loved this sport, obviously, in all likelihood, your entire life, that has been covering the league for nearly 2 decades, how did you feel when you first heard the news come down from Major League Baseball about what the Houston Astros purportedly have done?
I expected there to be some pretty harsh and severe penalties because what we're talking about here is something that goes to the integrity of the game. I mean, this is very clearly and very plainly cheating. And I know that baseball has a long and complicated relationship with cheating. Cheating has been really not just part of the game, but something that's been propped up as being an exciting part of the game, a big part of the game, an important part of the game going back generations now, whether it's throwing a spitball, whether it's filing seams down, whether, there are so many different ways that people have cheated in baseball and going back historically. But to do it as blatantly as the Astros did, and with the use of technology, additionally, you had to imagine that Rob Manfred, the commissioner, was going to come down with a harsh and severe penalty, and that is what he did.
For our audience out there that may not have read the articles or may have read it and still don't quite understand specifically, exactly what the Houston Astros did here, could you explain to my listeners exactly what they are guilty of?
I would love to. Back in 2017, at the beginning of the year, the Astros, with Alex Cora as their bench coach, started using the video replay room, which is located just off of the dugout, to decode sign sequences. Now, every pitch that is thrown from pitcher to catcher, the catcher will put a sign in between his legs to indicate what he wants the pitcher to throw. As years have gone on and teams got a little more paranoid and wary of other teams trying to steal the signs and relay to the batters what exactly was coming, they've developed something called sign sequences, which is essentially to say Stephen A., I'm telling you right now that the third sign I throw down is the one that I want you to throw. And so what teams, and the Astros in particular, have been trying to do since 2017 is to decode those sequences, figure out what was coming, and then relay it somehow to the batters. This was not good enough just to decode the sequences. So what they wound up doing was getting a monitor installed right next to the dugout that had a feed coming from a camera in center field that was placed there for player development purposes. It's a really slow motion camera that can capture the grips of pitchers and see if the grips are correct. What they wound up doing is zooming that camera in to the opposing catchers, and people would sit there next to the dugout near this monitor and try in real time to decode the sign sequences. Once they were decoded, all of a sudden they could look at what the sign was. They knew it was coming, and they would take a bat and bang on a trash can to alert the batter who was at the plate what was coming, whether it was a fastball, a curveball, a slider, a changeup. And when, as a baseball player, you know what's coming, you have a much, much greater chance of hitting it.
So with that being said, and not only that, this is far more advanced than just trying to steal signs, as you just highlighted and articulated. Essentially, you use technology to gain that kind of unfair advantage. It's clear premeditation in your estimation. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah, no question about it. And look, something like this has been going on for a really long time. Let's remember, the shot heard around the world, which might be the most famous single swing of a baseball bat of all time, Bobby Thompson knew what was coming. Mm-hmm. Like, there was a scoreboard that was flashing out in the outfield to let him know which pitch was coming. So this is not something that is particularly new, but it is something that Rob Manfred and Major League Baseball have to take extraordinarily seriously, because this is now, Stephen A., two of the last three World Series champions between the 2017 Astros and the 2018 Boston Red Sox who have been accused of using technology to steal signs.
And were they not warned ahead of time? Because I recall, listen, when they won in 2017, that's October, but they were warned a month earlier in September of 2017 not to do this kind of stuff by the commission and league. Is that not correct?
That is right, because in August of 2017, really like patient zero for this whole thing was the Red Sox. And the Red Sox, their video replay room was pretty far away from their dugout, so they were decoding signs in the replay room and sending them via Apple Watch to the bench. The New York Yankees caught wind of this. They told the commissioner's office about it. MLB did an investigation, and indeed, the Red Sox had been communicating via an Apple Watch and running afoul of these rules that were in place. And on September 15th, 2017, Rob Manfred set out a tersely worded letter to executives and to managers saying, if we find out that you as an organization have done this, we are going to be holding you, general manager, and you, manager of the team, accountable. And that's exactly ultimately, Stephen A., what happened. Even though the Astros sign-stealing scheme was, as Rob Manfred wrote in his memo, player-driven, the general manager and manager are the ones who ended up wearing it and getting suspended for 1 year and ultimately fired, as opposed to the players who were given immunity by the commissioner.
So do you believe that Hinch and Luna definitely deserve to be fired? And what is your issue with the fact that players seem to be absolved from this because none of them were punished?
Yeah, I understand the firing of both of them. A.J. Hinch very clearly knew what was going on. In fact, twice he damaged the monitor outside of the dugout just to show his displeasure, but ultimately he never did anything about it. And, you can be passive aggressive and damage a monitor, or you can go and say, not just to your players, but to your boss, Jeff Luhnow, this is unacceptable. This is not going to continue. We cannot do this. This is cheating. This is wrong. He damaged the monitor. He damaged, just to be clear, he damaged the monitor as if to say he didn't like it there. We shouldn't be doing this. Is that what you're saying? Correct. Okay. Yes, did that twice. So, A.J. Hinch, I think, is a principled person. And I think deep down he felt bad about this, but You know, Stephen, I was talking with a longtime, very successful executive last night. Mm-hmm. And he said, you know, I try to envision myself in this same situation. My team is doing really well, mm-hmm. and they found something that works for them. And I ask myself, am I really principled enough to say, this is wrong, stop it, we cannot be doing this? And this is somebody who I've always thought has a good moral compass and has a good conscience. And he said, I would like to believe that when it's all said and done, yes, I absolutely would say something, but I don't know that I would.
Jeff, last quick question, really, really quick answer to this. What about Alex Cora? He was the bench coach with the Astros, and then obviously with the Red Sox, they won the World Series, and now we've got them under a microscope. You think he's going to keep his job in Boston? Real quick.
I do not think he's going to keep his job in Boston, and I think he's going to end up with a suspension even longer than Jeff Luhnow and A.J. Hinch.
Wow. Jeff Passan, appreciate you, buddy. Thank you so much.
You're the best, Stephen A. Take care, pal.
So are you. Thank you. Jeff Passan, MLB Insider Extraordinaire, right here with Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News, 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. More with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio in a minute.
This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A. Come to hour number 2 of the Stephen A. Smith Show. Coming at you right here over the national airways of ESPN Radio and ESPN News, as I love to do every weekday. 888-SAY-ESPN is the number to call. It's 888-729-3776. 250 plus markets across the country, plus Sirius XM Channel 80. Tune into the ESPN Daily Podcast, bringing you a deep dive into a single story from one of ESPN's hundreds of reporters. Presented by Dell Small Business. Download, subscribe, and review ESPN Daily, available wherever you enjoy your podcast. On the line with us right now, as promised, has been spent the past year as the voice of Monday Night Football. Obviously, he is an LSU alum. He was on the sideline last night for the national championship game in which his team, the LSU Tigers, ended up capturing a national championship. I've had to eat crow with Ryan Clark. I've had to eat crow with Marcus Spears, Swaggo. And now I have to eat my third plate of crow talking to my next guest, the one and only Booger McFarland. What's up, big boy? How are you?
I'm doing outstanding, Stephen A.
I'm sure you are.
Today?
I'm sure you are. I'm sure you are, Booger McFarland. I'm sure you are. I know that you're happy this team won. I know you're not surprised LSU ended up winning the national championship last night. Were you surprised at all with how they did it? What was your take from last night's game?
Well, I wasn't surprised that LSU scored the amount of points that they did. I think that the thing that really surprised me is our defense has gotten better and better throughout the season. You know, it's not the same defense that got embarrassed at Ole Miss, even though we won the game. I mean, we gave up almost 600 yards of offense. I was just really, really surprised and pleased at the same time at the improvement that Dave Aranda and this defense has made throughout the season. And when you look at the offense that Clemson has, I mean, they got 2 first-round receivers in Higgins and Ross. You got a quarterback who most people think is going to be the first pick of the 2021 draft. You got a running back in Etienne who was highly motivated because LSU didn't offer him a scholarship. And to go out and to kind of stymie that offense the way they did, that was the biggest surprise, but also really, really good to see and good to watch for those guys.
You mentioned that Ross and Higgins are first-round picks at the wideout spot. They didn't look that way last night. How did that happen?
Well, I think you got to look at the first-round picks on the other side for LSU. Derek Stingley Jr. will be the best cornerback to ever play at LSU, and that's no disrespect to Morris Claiborne, Patrick Peterson, Tre'Davious White. No disrespect at all to any of those guys. But he will be the best to ever play cornerback at LSU. And then on the other side, Christian Fulton is going to be probably a mid to late first-round pick. So those guys were going up against 2 first-round corners. So it was good on good last night. And Trevor Lawrence didn't have his best night. I mean, he had, I want to say, 13 or 14 overthrows. So it was a combination of Lawrence not playing well, and then the LSU cornerbacks really locking those guys down.
Was it that strong of a combination, though? Because even though I saw some overthrows, I must confess to you, I saw Ross and Higgins having a difficult time getting open. Higgins was never the same once he took that shot. I believe it was in the first half or very early in the second half. He wasn't the same. And this kid, Jamar Chase, on the offensive side of the ball, I mean, this guy, A.J. Terrell, was supposed to be the leading corner for the Clemson Tigers, and he got shredded last night. There's no way around it. What was your take about what you saw from Jamar Chase and what you saw from Clemson secondary?
Well, Clemson secondary couldn't handle the spotlight. And, Brett Venables basically said, you know what, if you guys are going to beat me, then you're going to have to throw the football over the top. And once Joe Brady and Steve Ensminger realized that, they just started throwing it up to Chase. And you're going to leave Chase one-on-one with number 8. I mean, it was like taking candy from a baby out there. So I think that's the biggest mismatch that was exploited. Like, Clemson's wide receivers were really good. Clemson's quarterback, the offense is really good. Their linebackers are okay, but LSU exploited what I think is a weakness, which is their secondary. And you got to give hats off to Joe Burrow because, Chase caught a lot of balls. Everybody was feasting. But Burrow put those balls where only our guys could catch him, and he gave our guys an opportunity to make plays. And I think, you just look at, even though Burrow's the Heisman Trophy winner and he's a superstar on the collegiate level, you look how humble this young man is and how much he's loved by his teammates. It tells you everything about him that you need to know.
Booger McFarland right here with Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News. How do you go from being a quarterback who clearly is good but wasn't good enough to start at Ohio State because he got beat out by Dwayne Haskins? He transfers to LSU. He has a decent year last year, but obviously he had some flaws and what have you. How do you get from that to setting all-time records in college football at the quarterback position in just 1 year? How the hell does that happen?
It's really simple, Stephen A. It's kind of like in life, man. When you have somebody believe in you, it's amazing what you can do. So I'll take you back a year. LSU was trying to figure out what kind of offense they were going to run, and Steve Ensminger was the coordinator. Coach O believed so much in Joe Burrow that he went down to New Orleans and he got an analyst named Joe Brady, and he came in and said, I want you to put the spread offense in, and we're going to let Joe Burrow throw the football the way he did in high school. And when somebody will breathe life and confidence into you, now we saw the true Joe Burrow. Now we saw the Joe Burrow that was in high school that led him to be one of the top recruits coming out of high school a few years ago. And I think just that bit of confidence, and Joe Brady put in a new scheme and all that, but I mean, how many times, we've seen the spread before. It's amazing what happens when you put the spread with the right quarterback, with the right coordinator, and Steve Ensminger and Joe Brady. That's how you get that, because somebody gave Joe Burrow the confidence, and he reverted back to the guy that he was coming out of high school, which was the top recruit. And that should be a lesson in life for everyone. Man, just because somebody doubts your talent, don't believe that. Find somebody that believes in you and to see how much you can flourish and grow. And to me, that is a great lesson, and America got a chance to see it last night.
Booger McFarland, let's transition to Clemson for a quick second on this level. They were the national champions coming into last night's game. They returned to the national title game after beating Ohio State. Had they won last night, they would have won 3 titles in the last 4 years, clearly making them the number 1 program in all of college football right now. Having lost, where do you believe that leaves them, particularly in light of the fact that you had some critics out there looking at the Clemson Tigers and wondering how much did they deserve to be in the postseason to begin with based on their strength of schedule or lack thereof coming out of the ACC?
Well, what I would say is I think Clemson is still in the upper echelon of the upper echelon. So they are in the top 2 or 3 programs in the country. Dabo Swinney's got a factory going down there. Stephen, I know you've been down there. What he does from a team-building standpoint, from a man-building standpoint, to me is not eclipsed by anyone. It's right there on par with a lot of programs. They have a quarterback that's coming back. They got a lot of weapons defensively. And more importantly, they continue to recruit at a high level. So I think when you start looking at the who's who in college football, it's still the same people. It's Clemson, it's LSU, it's Alabama, it's Ohio State, it's Georgia. And then, I may be leaving out a couple. But then once you get past those top 10, then I think you take a step off. But Clemson is right there with everyone else.
Booger McFarland, after we saw Clemson shellac Alabama 44-16 in a national title game last year, we were talking about Trevor Lawrence much in the same light as we're talking about Joe Burrow right now. Trevor Lawrence obviously had a tough night. It wasn't his greatest night. It's his first loss of his collegiate career. We get it, even though we know he's going to have a bright future. How do we know something like this in terms of, I know that Joe Burrow is about to move on to the pros, but how do we know that something like this won't be said about Joe Burrow, considering the year he's had now compared to what he may have moving forward?
Well, I think you got to look at things that are transferable. Size, height, weight, speed, all those things are transferable. And scouts can do a great job of scouting that and identifying that. But I think there are certain things that the great scouts and great GMs pick up on. And one of the things I call has been a force multiplier. And that's the ability when you are in a group of men, whether it's 10, 20, or on a football team, it's 100 guys. And can you galvanize that group at your position? And oftentimes it's the quarterback because he touches the ball every single play. Okay, Joe Burrow is a force multiplier. Now let's get specific to the quarterback position. I don't care if he's 6'6" and 240, can throw it 80 yards. That doesn't matter playing this position. What matters when you are a quarterback, you are a distributor of the football. Mm-hmm. Because that ball has to get to certain people and has to get there on time and accurately. And Joe Burrow does that as good as anyone we've ever seen on the collegiate level. So all those things, Stephen A., are transferable from the collegiate level to the professional level, which is why as long as you put weapons around him where he can distribute the ball to those weapons, I think Joe Burrow is as safe a pick coming out of college as we've seen in a while. He's not Andrew Luck. I'm not going to even say that. Like Andrew Luck was can't miss. I'm not going to say Joe Burrow is can't miss. But the way he distributes the football safely, accurately, his decision-making, and more than anything, Stephen, he's got it. Like he's got that moxie. It's not arrogant. It's a fine line between cockiness, arrogance, and confidence. And he's teetering on that line, but he's never crossed it.
Yeah, but the problem is if he goes pro, he'll end up going to Cincinnati in all likelihood, particularly since he's an Ohio native. And why would we wish that upon him?
Cincinnati was good at one point. How come they can't be good again? We fall into this trap that's saying, Cincinnati. I remember the time when Cincinnati was in the Super Bowl. I'm old enough to remember that.
Yeah, that's 1983. 1983 against Joe Montana and those boys. Yep.
Right. So I thought, I remember that. So Cincinnati is going to be good again at some point. We just know when. I remember when Florida State dominated the 90s, and right now Florida State is going through a cycle of coaches. So football is a cyclical thing that kind of goes in and goes out of these different phases. And if Joe Burrow goes to Cincinnati, who's to say he can't be the guy that turns it around, especially if they continue to build. And, if you believe in Zach Taylor like I do, I think that Cincinnati is on to something, but obviously they are a long, long way away. But I do think Cincinnati needs a quarterback. I don't think Finley's the guy. I think they've made up in their mind that Andy Dalton is not the guy. So I fully expect Joe Burrow to be the first pick to the Cincinnati Bengals unless they get enamored with the skill set of Chase Young, which I think Chase Young is the most talented player in the draft. And if you gave me the tag of who is a can't miss in this draft, I would say Chase Young is can't miss 100%. He's going to be a star on the next level.
Who do you think will be a better pro, Booger McFarland, Trevor Lawrence or Joe Burrow?
Wow. I think Joe Burrow because I think he'll last longer. Distributing the football, timing, accuracy, decision-making. Joe Burrow has had a season where he completed, almost 78% of his balls? That's like Drew Brees-ish. Drew Brees has played 100 years doing that. So when you can be accurate, Steve, you can play forever. And I just think over time, the consistency at which he will play will lead him to have a better career. Now, let me also talk about Trevor Lawrence. He's going to be the first pick in 2021, and he's going to have a successful career. I'm just basically split the hairs who's going to have the better career. Trevor Lawrence is a little bit more athletic, and we've never seen old running quarterbacks, even though he's not a runner, but he does run around a lot more than Joe Burrow. If you gave me the choice between the two, I would take Burrow.
What about Tua? How do you feel? Tua Tagovailoa for Alabama. We know he's going to come out. We know about the hip surgery. We know what the injury incurred. But I'm just talking about a healthy Tua. What do you think about him in comparison to what you saw from Joe Burrow and what you saw from Trevor Lawrence? Because Tua is a pretty accurate passer himself.
Very much so. And I think that the one thing that, that we can't lose with everything that's going on with the hip injury is that what made Tua Tua. Tua's clutch. Tua came in a national championship game and basically won a championship, not by himself, but he willed that team to win, and he made some amazing, accurate throws. I am a guy, I'm a big believer. The quarterback is a distributor, and you got to be accurate with the football, and Tua can do that. Joe Burrow can do that. We didn't see it so much from Trevor Lawrence last night. But I still think that's something he can continue to work on because we saw it the year before when they beat Alabama. But I think those three guys are all going to be top 10 picks. I think two of them are going to be top 1 picks in Burrow and Trevor Lawrence. And, wherever Tua decides to, make his home as far as who drafts him, we'll see. But I do expect Tua, if he recovers from the hip, I think he's going to be a consistent starter in this league, and he'll play for a long time because he is accurate, and he's mobile enough and makes some plays with his legs that he can get out of trouble when he needs to.
So with that being said, now that we've got all of that out the way, who do you find to be the number 1 program in college football right now?
Wow.
LSU's the reigning national champions now, but Clemson's been the back-to-back titles and 4 of the last 5, and Alabama is still Alabama. Who are you looking at? Ohio State is there too. Who are you looking at?
Is there a program that's hotter than LSU right now? Yeah. I mean, national champ, top 5 recruiting class. That's only going to get better. You got the hottest assistant coach in the country in Joe Brady. A defense that's led by a top 5 defensive coordinator in Dave Aranda. I mean, how can you say that there's a program? We're talking about right now. I mean, we're less than 20.
Well, Joe Burrow's leaving.
Yeah, okay, but Stephen A., we're in this is Baton Rouge. We don't rebuild, we reload, buddy. Okay?
Oh Lord,
that's what we do in Baton Rouge.
So you win a title. So you win a title for the first time since 2007, and you're like, we don't rebuild, we reload. Really, really?
That's what we do, Stephen. That's what we do, Stephen A. We won 10 games last year. We won 15 this year. Like we've been consistent for a long time.
That ain't consistent. That's a 5-game gap.
Okay, we also played more games this year. I know you got your mind stuck on Clemson and your famous Alabama, but it's a new sheriff in town, Stephen A. Open your mind up, okay? I know New Orleans. New Orleans is a city that you like to frequent. You're gonna have to make your way 60 miles up the road and come to Baton Rouge. And maybe then, instead of saying Alabama, you'll say Baton Rouge because we are the new sheriff in town. We've been there. But now people recognize us since we finally
We've been there. We've been there.
Wait,
you said that with a straight face. We've been there. We've been there.
Stephen A., in the last 20 years, we got 3 national championships, Stephen A. Come on now. I mean, come on. I mean, these are facts now. You can't argue with those. You taught me this. You can't argue with facts. So come on up to Baton Rouge and hang out. I'll get you some ribs and some gumbo and some etouffee. And Texas, I think the second week of September, Texas comes to Baton Rouge.
Oh, that don't mean anything. That Texas ain't got no shot against y'all. That ain't nothing. Who cares about that?
But listen, I'm trying to get you in that atmosphere down there in Baton Rouge so you can feel what it's like because you're a guy who can appreciate being inside the best venue. And, oh, by the way, can we finally settle the debate what the real Death Valley is? Okay, Clemson, South Carolina, y'all can call yourselves Death Valley, but in the Battle of Death Valleys last night, I think we showed y'all who the real Death Valley is.
Oh. Enjoy it, man. Yeah, I can't say anything to you and the LSU crew. It's Swagoo and Ryan Clark. Y'all got me, man. Y'all got me. I didn't see Joe Burrow doing this. I'm not going to lie. I didn't see it. I didn't see it. I got it. Appreciate you, man. Thank you so much.
Anytime. Later, buddy.
My brother, the one and only Booger McFarland right here with Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News, 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. Andre, you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
Yeah. How you doing, Stephen A.? Thanks for taking my call. Congratulations on moving onward and upward. We're going to miss you on the radio, but you got to do what you got to do. I got to agree with Booger McFarland. There's a sea change shift now in terms of college football. The Alabama era, in my opinion, is over, and I'm going to tell you why. Not just did LSU win on the field, but they're winning off the field in terms of the culture, in terms of the swagger of their program. Obviously, it starts with Coach O. That's a swashbuckling man right there. You don't know anything about college football, college sport. You just listen to Coach O. He's a motivator. Mm-hmm. B, the pregame hype video, the postgame hype video. You had Odell there on the sideline. Ryan Clark, Marcus. The program just has such good energy. And here's the overarching point. You have LSU, loaded with talent, great motivator as a coach. You have Clemson, same thing, loaded with talent, motivator as a coach. I think it's going to be going forward. Nick Saban, again, his old school approach, when you're recruiting the best, players across the board, you have to connect, you have to energize, and he kind of lacks there, whereas Clemson's been there, as you said, the last 3 years. LSU is now coming up into the conversation. I think they're going to usurp Alabama in the SEC, and, the picture in college football next 5-10 years is going to look different.
Got it, man. I appreciate the call. Thank you so much. I got to admit, though, Nick Saban, this is the toughest it's been, John. Between Ed Orgeron and LSU and Kirby Smart at Georgia. Excuse me. You got Auburn in the picture as well. Nick Saban's going to have his work cut out for him. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Can't deny it. Let's go to Walter. You're live with Stephen A. What's up, Walter?
How you doing, Stephen A?
How are you? Go ahead.
Stephen. Oh, okay. How come nobody's talking about Jalen Hurts? They talk about every other quarterback, but then nobody talks about Jalen Hurts since he lost in the playoff. That young man was 38-4. Mm-hmm. So nobody can't tell me that he can't play pro ball.
Well, I will tell you this. The best thing that ever happened to Jalen Hurts was Lamar Jackson. Because watching Lamar Jackson run with the football, you look at Jalen Hurts and you say, this is an athletic dude that can make things happen. He completed 69.7% of his passes, threw for nearly 4,000 yards, 32 touchdowns, just 8 interceptions. You give credit where credit is due, but when he showed up in those playoffs, he got humbled real quick, man. You saw how they got annihilated by LSU, and people are going to look at that, and it's sort of like zap the wind off his sails. That's how people are looking at it. It was the same old Jalen. It wasn't his fault because Oklahoma got beat up. They went up against them meat and potato boys from Baton Rouge, and they didn't know what to do with it. But you still looked at Jalen Hurts and said, all right, same old, same old. He's an athlete. He can make some throws, but he wasn't viewed as an elite quarterback. But he did a hell of a job at Oklahoma this year. I definitely think that somebody will snatch him up in the second or third round, and he'll get an opportunity to do some things. That's what I personally believe. I really think that'll happen.
Maybe you can ask some of your other guys that you on First Take at some of them. I watch it every morning. I never hear them say anything about Jalen.
Yeah, because why you think that is? Why you think that is? It's because of the reasons I just said. That's why you haven't heard it. But I'll ask. Appreciate the call, man. Thank you so much. Matt, you're live with Stephen A. Go ahead.
Good.
Matt, you're live on the air. Go ahead.
How you doing?
I'm all right. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. I got to watch it until third quarter last night, but I'm a Tennessee fan. I was rooting 100% LSU, but I'm gonna give credit to Dabo Swinney and boys. They did come to play ball, and I'm gonna tell you, Trevor Lawrence is the truth, but Joe Burrow is too, and I just hope to God he does not go. I hope he does go number one, but I do not hope he goes to Cincinnati Bengals because they are garbage, hot garbage. I
wouldn't want him there either. You said you're a Tennessee football fan?
Tennessee Volunteers, sir.
Yeah, 8-5 this season. 8-5 this season under Jeremy Pruitt, huh? Yeah. That's not bad, but that's not going to cut it either. 5 losses in the season. But I hear you. I appreciate the call. And you're right. You're definitely right. I wouldn't want Joe Burrow in Cincinnati either. I think that's wise. But but Cincinnati would be stupid to pass up on him. He's a great kid and clearly a great player. And he'd be a local commodity, which would be a box office attraction for them. So I definitely think that you got to take him. I just feel sorry for him having to end up there. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. You're listening live to Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Back with more of your calls in a minute. By the way, it's time for some straight talk. The big wireless carriers try to wow you with big deals, but the savings are very little. With Straight Talk Wireless, you get the exact same networks as the big guys, but saving up to half the cost. Right now, you can get the unlimited plan with up to 25 gigs of high-speed data, then 2G for just $45 a month. No contract, no mystery fees, all with nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. Straight Talk Wireless, only at Walmart.
This human resources professional is crushing it thanks to Kronos. And this is his hype song.
You can fall back with the pack. I'm a leader pack.
I've got HR, payroll, talent, and time.
I'm on the top, I'm gonna rise up. Now we are
engaging all the best people.
blast off to the front of the field. This is
Kronos, HR solutions for the modern workforce. Learn more at kronos.com/HR swagger.
There's crispy. And then there's crispy. Try our new and improved Tyson Crispy Chicken Strips. Crispy just got crispy.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Stephen A. Smith Show is being brought to you by Shell V-Power Nitro Plus Premium Gasoline, engineered with 4 levels of defense against gunk, wear, corrosion, and friction. Also, ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance, creators of the Name Your Price tool. Choose from a range of coverage options and pick the price that works for you. Visit Progressive.com today. Getting back to that Major League Baseball scandal involving the Houston Astros, how they were cheating by stealing signals, why I am now of the mindset that the Houston Astros deserve to have their World Series trophy stripped and confiscated from their possession and returned to the Major League Baseball offices. It should not be on the property of the Houston Astros. The manager, who was originally suspended for the year without pay and an hour later was subsequently fired, A.J. Hinch, who our very own baseball insider Jeff Passan said broke the screen twice. He was not happy about it. He didn't want to be a part of it. Said this in his statement yesterday via Chandler Rome of the Houston Chronicle. Quote, I appreciate Commissioner Manfred's unwavering commitment to upholding the best interests of baseball. I regret being connected to these events and disappointed in our club's actions within this timeline, and I accept the commissioner's decision. As a leader and major league manager, it is my responsibility to lead players and staff with integrity that represents the game in the best possible way. While the evidence consistently showed I didn't endorse or participate in the sign stealing practices, I failed to stop them, and I am deeply sorry. I apologize to Mr. Crane, the owner for the Houston Astros, for all negative reflections this may have had on him and the Astros organization. To the fans, thank you for your continued support through this challenging time. And for this team, I apologize to all of you for our mistakes, but I'm confident we will learn from it. And I personally commit to working tirelessly to ensure that I do. My time in Houston has provided some of the greatest moments of my career, and those memories will always be near and dear to me and my family. I regret that my time with the Astros has ended, but will always be a supporter of the club, players, and staff I've had the privilege of working alongside. I wish them the best in the future of the game I love. That is A.J. Hinch, the now former manager for the Houston Astros. Here is GM Jeff Luhnow, who was also suspended for the year by the Major League Baseball before being fired an hour later by the owner, Mr. Crane, who made it very, very clear that his standards are higher than the Major League Baseball office. Here's Jeff Luhnow, the GM, speaking. I accept responsibility for rules and violations that occurred on my watch as president of baseball operations and general manager of the Astros. I'm sorry, he's not speaking. It's a statement. I apologize to the Astros organization, Astros fans, and the Houston community for the shame and embarrassment this has caused. I am deeply grateful to Jim Crane for the opportunity to lead baseball operations. I am not a cheater. Anybody who has worked closely with me during my 32-year career inside and outside baseball can attest to my integrity. I did not know rules were being broken. As the commissioner set out in his statement, I did not personally direct, oversee, or engage in any misconduct. The sign stealing initiative was not planned or directed by baseball management. The trash can banging was driven and executed by players, and the video decoding of signs originated and was executed by lower levels employees working with the bench coach, which was Alex Cora at the time. I am deeply upset that I wasn't informed of any misconduct because I would have stopped it. I agree with Mr. Crane that our baseball operations team has achieved far more positives beyond this significant negative. Many very good people have worked and continue to work for the Astros organization. I am extremely proud of the many executives throughout the industry who were trained and promoted in our department. First of all, the Astros are cheaters. That's your reputation. Deal with it. Number 2, the manager and the GM deserve to be fired. Number 3, Alex Cora, the bench coach, who is now the manager of the Boston Red Sox. He may lose his job. He's in a world of trouble. Carlos Beltran, new manager for the Mets, was a part of the Astros at that particular moment in time. He might be in trouble. And I can't say anybody's wrong. Punishment seems to fit the crime. Now that we have all the details. Players were clearly involved in all of this. If you're banging trash cans to give signals and indications of what pitches are coming, I'm sorry, you're a part of that. You're a part of that. There's no way around it. Nichelle, you're live with Stephen A.
Hi, Stephen A. Thank you for taking my call.
Go ahead. You're welcome.
I agree that the GM should have been fired because he's lying when he says he doesn't know about it. Mm-hmm. The rest of it, I don't agree with.
Okay, why is that?
Tell me, how do banging on the trash can give somebody a hit? You still have to be able to hit
No, Shell. You're wrong. You're wrong. Here's why. You and I can't hit the ball, but professional baseball players can hit baseballs. That's why they're paid to do it. They do things we cannot do. If you are clearly getting an unfair advantage by being tipped off as to what pitches are coming, I'm going to throw a fastball now. I'm going to throw a curveball now. I'm going to go throw a slider now. You or I might have a problem pitching it, hitting it, even though we know it's coming. A Major League Baseball player, that is an entirely different matter. You have Clayton Kershaw. You have Brandon Morrow. You have Yu Darvish. Go ahead and read Bill Plaschke's article in the LA Times this morning, where he's highlighting how this was an ace pitching staff. And then suddenly over a 2-game stretch, they gave up 18 runs, 26 hits, and 6 home runs and couldn't seem to get a damn person out. And then you have a former player on the Astros who told on them.
Yeah. Why he tell? Because he was former?
That's not the point, Nichelle. See, that's killing the messenger. That's not the point. Who cares about his motive? Was he telling the truth? Major League Baseball discovered he was.
But still, you know what? Stealing signs, they always change it during the game.
No, what happens is, Nichelle, nope, you're being emotional. They installed cameras in center field. They put a monitor in the dugout so hitters and bench coaches can see it. At which time the signs that were being, displayed ultimately gave them a hint because they were being decoded. And as a result of the decoding, they would bang on the trash can because the players were working in concert with the coaches to use that as an indication of what pitch was coming. And the reason why they were doing the trash cans was to disguise that they were decoding the signal. It's flagrant cheating. Okay. And it's premeditated.
That's fine. But, okay. Now I've been listening to you all day. And I listened to Passan. I think that's his name.
Jeff Passan. Go ahead.
Okay. Why should Alex Cora get more than anybody else?
Nichelle, you're all over the place. I appreciate the call. I have to go. Thank you. I'm going to answer your question, though. Alex Cora is likely going to get a stiffer penalty because he was the individual, a baseball lifer, by the way, who is being accused of having instigated all of this and had subordinates working under him to do all of this. And on top of it all, that's when he was the bench coach in Houston. But then he went to Boston because he got hired as the manager off of their championship in Houston. And he turned around while in Boston as its manager, won a championship the next year, and then got accused of cheating himself. That's why the penalty is expected to be stiffer for him. 888 say ESPN. Your calls to close out the show in a minute with Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News.
Guess what? You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it! Download the Vivid Seats app and enter promo code ESPN25 at checkout to get 10% off your next order. Don't buy just any seat. Get a Vivid seat. Kevin, you're live with Stephen A. Real quick, go ahead.
Hey, Stephen A. This is Kevin Taylor. I just wanted to say we're going to miss you, and I'm glad I got this opportunity to talk to you.
Thank you.
You seem like a very articulate and well-spoken gentleman. And I just wanted to say the first thing is what they got to do with this baseball is they got to start putting on 3-year probationary periods where you don't qualify for the playoffs. You end the money, I guarantee you end the controversy, the whole thing, because that's basically what it boils down to. You can take the championships away, you can take everything away, but they still get to keep that money.
Got you. Understood. I appreciate the call, Kevin, and thank you. Thank you for your kind words. Let's go to Tony real quick. You're live with Stephen A. Go ahead, Tony.
Hey, Mr. Smith. My name's Tony. I never spoke to you before, but I listen pretty much every day. I had to call in when you said that you weren't a fan of the Houston Astros cheating, but when you listen on ESPN, it replayed you saying that you don't think that the Patriots cheating was a big deal. So I just wanted to know, in your professional opinion, what the difference was, because I don't keep up with sports as much as you.
Well, first of all, it wasn't so much that it wasn't a big deal. What I said is, do you have evidence that Bill Belichick cheated? Because we know that Spygate was Spygate back in 2007. Deflategate involved deflated footballs. This latest incident right here involving the Cincinnati Bengals. Do you know? He said he had nothing to do with it. It's Kraft Television Productions and all of this other stuff. Whereas with Major League Baseball, it is clear cats got caught cheating to the point where you're talking about people that believe definitively that the World Series trophy should be removed from their facilities, and I'm one of them. It should be removed immediately. I didn't feel that way yesterday. Yesterday, I was like, yeah, man, this ain't that big of a deal. It's cheating going on all the time in baseball. Pine tar, messing with the baseball, stealing signals. This is par for the course. No, I didn't know about some device out in center field. I didn't know about the monitor at the dugout. I didn't know some technological things were specifically implemented for the sole purpose of cheating, and that it involved players and banging on trash cans by employees and the bench coach manipulating it. I ain't know all that.
Oh, I feel you, sir.
So it's a different ball game. And Alex Cora, according to Jeff Passan, is about to lose his job in Boston. And this penalty might be stiffer. This is a baseball lifer. He's supposed to know better. Appreciate the call. Susan, you only got a minute. You're live with Stephen A. What's up?
Yes, I just want to say that many people were damaged, like Hugh Darvish, his reputation, and Clayton Kershaw is his reputation as well. People lost jobs, and now baseball is considered like wrestling. So you have to have it be a sport, and cheating cannot be allowed, and that's, it's just completely unfair what the fallout was.
Listen, here's the reality of the situation. I think, again, I would encourage everybody to go to the LA Times, read a column written by the great Bill Plaschke in their sports section, demanding that the Houston Astros lose their World Series trophy, that you disregard their championship season. He talked about a 2-game stretch where you got an A staff with Darvish and Morrow and Clayton Kershaw suddenly collapsed over a 2-game period where they gave up 18 runs, 26 hits, and 6 home runs. I was at game 6 and 7 in the stands. Me, trying to disguise myself as best as I can with my boy Jeff Brown. We were sitting in the stands and watching this staff get shellacked. Like, what the hell is going on? These dudes forgot how to pitch. And then to hear about the banging of the trash cans, that was a signal as to what pitch was coming. And to know that they were warned before the postseason even began by Major League Baseball and still didn't stop. The manager, here's all y'all need to know. The manager for the Astros fired his general manager and manager an hour after Major League Baseball handed down the penalty. That's all you need to know. And Alex Cora of the Boston Red Sox appears to be next. Stay tuned, everybody. I'll talk to y'all in 22 hours. Until then, peace and love.